You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
We all need self-expression. The most effective way to express ourselves is through words. But according to the Stuttering Foundation, close to 80 million people worldwide stutter today. This is Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. After years of practicing conventional speech therapy, Anna Deeter has pioneered a new and effective approach to this debilitating habit. So now, please welcome the host of Live Stutter-Free, Anna Deeter.
Happy Friday from Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. As usually at the end of the busy week, on Friday afternoon, we get together and begin discussing the stuttering cure business, but most importantly, the new profession called Etalon Speech Education. Dear listeners, today you will get to hear an amazing success story from one of the other than you have heard before, another former lifelong stutterer, who became unblocked in the 3-day online course of the Etalon Speech Gymnastics. Our today's guest is a young and extremely intelligent man from Poland. But his level of English language, as I say, nearly perfect. He speaks a very, very good level of English language. Just like thousands of other successful Etalon graduates, he was stuck for many years in this devastating condition that conventional medical scientists call stuttering, stammering, speech disfluency disorder, or many other names that are even more difficult to comprehend. I'm referring to the terms that they use, the terms that are in Latin language that we don't even understand at all. But as you know, medical professionals love to use some names that we don't understand when they diagnose us. Have you noticed that the less we people know about something, the less we understand the reality, how things work in reality, the more names we call this thing, and the more incomprehensible these words are. But before I introduce Pawel from Poland to you, I would like to present, as usual, my opening statement. Live Stutter-Free's mission is to solve all mysteries and to debunk all myths about stuttering as a medical condition caused by some physiological, neurological, or as they say, genetic abnormality of a person's body. I am Anna Deeter, and I am a passionate pioneer of the brand new profession called Etalon Speech Education. Education, not speech pathology, not speech therapy, not any type of therapy. Every Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, I share the revolutionary truth of the Etalon science with you, my dear listeners. Stuttering is solved. There is no more mystery. The definitive cause, mechanism, and the 100% reliable and effective solution for the total 100% elimination of any form of stuttering, or as they say, speech disfluency disorder, any form of it has been discovered. Yes, the solution is very simple. The solution has been discovered. Finally, the Etalon science has explained and proved practically. When I say practically, I mean on thousands of cases of former lifelong stutterers. It's been proven that you or your loved one stutter because of a set of invisible stupor blocks. Yes, stupor block is the only cause and the mechanism of any form of stuttering. It can and must be removed in a very short time without any cure, without any drugs, without any treatment or any long-term speech training. Are you shocked? I was when I first stumbled on this amazing revolutionary discovery called Etalon science, where Etalon stands for perfection, for the norm, for the standard of measurement, for the correct algorithm. Every stuttering block limits a stutterer to move freely his or her body, to be precise, speech organs, with ease, like everyone else does. It is similar to such a physical restrictor as, for example, handcuffs, fetters, some ropes or chains. They also restrict a person's freedom of bodily movement. Until such restrictions are being removed from the body, a person will always feel restricted, and he or she will always act differently, not like other people who are free of any restrictions, free of any limitations to move their body with ease. The 3-day study course of the Etalon Speech Gymnastics is the first and only solution on this planet, the solution for the total elimination of any form of speech disfluency with a 100% success rate guaranteed by Mother Nature, or, if you believe in God, guaranteed by God. I have been sharing hundreds of success stories of the Etalon program graduates on YouTube, Vimeo, RooTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and other social media platforms non-stop for the past 6 years. But too many people are still confused, still believe lies, and they're still in the state of a cognitive dissonance. No, it cannot be done in 3 days because I believe I am sick and need a cure. So we will talk about it later when we come back after the commercial break. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this amazing story. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
You are listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And I am about to introduce another Etalon Stutter-Free graduate, but today I'm not really interested in telling his story how he became unblocked. I am really interested on how he became blocked. And this is why I invite my former graduates to this Live Stutter-Free show. So, Pawel, are you there? Pawel from Poland.
Yes, I'm here with you.
Yay! Welcome to Live Stutter-Free. So, could you please just introduce yourself?
Yes, it's my pleasure. Hello, everyone. So this is Paweł Kucharski, and it's a pleasure being on this show and to share my story about how I was as a stutterer, and now I am just a normal person, and it's a pleasure for me to share the information and to spread to 80 million people suffering worldwide from this condition, as they say it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Pawel, could you please give a little bit kind of introduction of what do you do today? How is your life going? Because I haven't talked to you for a long time now, right?
Yes, Anna, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am 23 years old, and as long as I remember, I have been stuttering for my entire life, and there is really no comparison between what my life is now and how it used to be. I am now a free person. I can say what I want to say. There is absolutely no blocks. I do not have anything that restricts me in my self-expression, and I am extremely happy and satisfied person today.
Okay, very good. Happy to hear that. That's what I want. I want everyone to be happy. Okay, but let's go back to their early childhood. And as usual, I will ask just very simple question. When did you first learn that you were kind of weird, that you had a stuttering disease, sickness? How old were you when you first learned that?
So my first confrontation with stuttering was when I was 13 or 14 years old. This is when my problems started, and I noticed that I was making a lot of mistakes. Maybe because it was due to growing up or some stress at school or growing. So I noticed, and also my parents noticed, that my fluency started to deteriorate, and I was increasingly repeating words, I was repeating phrases, syllables, and it was very exhausting to me because I saw that I am very different from my peers, and I couldn't handle conversations for even a few minutes without repeating, without blocks. So I became really concerned with this and confused. So I started looking for professional help. And as you know, there are speech pathologists all over the world and even in my country. So we called them, and I started my quote training. So this is when the professional diagnosed me with stuttering, and we started training.
Yeah, so it started when you were 13, 14. That was the time for your first speech pathology session, right?
Yes.
Okay, so very good. So, and as our listeners already know, that speech therapists, speech pathologists are maybe very nice people. They may want to help, but unfortunately, I call them blockers because they block people, young people who have difficulty developing adequate speaking skills, and they simply convince these young people that there is something wrong with them, that they're sick. They diagnose these young children basically with some kind of disorder, right? What was your diagnosis? Do you remember?
My diagnosis was that my stuttering was located in a throat area. So he observed that when I speak, I have some kind of blocks in my throat, and it was some really specific diagnosis of some kind of stuttering. So they had like 20 types of stuttering, and I had this one certain that was located in my throat, and it didn't make sense to me. But I was only 14, so I trusted
Of
them.
course, you didn't have any choice. So what did they do with you actually? So how did they cure your throat, the problem in your throat?
So my first experience was just to talk about my stuttering, what is wrong with me. But the thing is, they didn't provide any solution. They just wanted me to describe my stuttering, and that's all. They just wanted me to speak, and they saw that I was repeating, that I was blocking. I was talking about my stuttering, but they didn't do anything with it.
Interesting. You were going to a speech therapist when you were in school, right?
Yes.
So how often would you go to this kind of a blocker, a speech therapist?
About 2 times a week.
2 times a week. Oh my God. And what were you doing there? 2 times a week.
We were training my breathing patterns. He said that if I breathe correctly, my speech will get better, that it will increase my fluency. And he said that we just need to talk. Maybe there is some kind of psychological problem that underlies my condition. So he wasn't really a speech pathologist, but I would call him more like a psychologist. He was talking with me about my problems, but he didn't even touch the subject of speech. There was just talking with no results.
Amazing. So he was talking, and what were you doing?
I was talking about my problems and how hard it is for me.
So he was just listening and taking in and kind of like, okay, confirming it. Okay, for how long were you going to this, whatever, psychologist? For how long?
It was for a few months. And after those few months, I noticed that there are absolutely no results. So I stumbled upon another therapy.
Okay, I have a question. Did you do it or your parents did?
No. It was my decision because it was so
Amazing.
hard for me to stutter that I was looking for help everywhere. So the speech pathologist was my first option.
Uh-huh. And then you found someone else?
And then I found another therapy.
Okay, so we're coming to the commercial break. When we come back, I want you to tell in more details what was the other type of a therapy that you, 14-year-old child, found yourself. Okay, so talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter is back on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we are having a discussion with Pawel from Poland, a former lifelong stutterer who got unblocked in only 3 days of the Etalon Speech Gymnastics just a few months ago. So Pawel, you said that after you were not satisfied with the first speech therapist when you were 14, you yourself, a child, found another speech pathologist or therapist. So could you please tell a little bit more about this, your experience?
Yes, sure, Anna. So the next therapy that I enrolled was even more insane, and you wouldn't believe what I had to go through. So this therapy lasted for 3 years.
Oh.
So those 3 years totally eradicated everything from my life, and I made a moron out of myself. But I would like to talk more about that.
Oh, you know what? I believe I remember you were talking about it. And let me just add a little piece of information. If you want to hear and see Pawel's story, I recommend you go to my YouTube channel, Anna Deeter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can find there were, I believe, 3 videos I made about video reports about my work with Pawel, because his stories were so amazing that I decided to make separate videos, video reports about his success and about his stories. But let's go to the story. What happened during this amazing, devastating experience in your life?
So, being dissatisfied with my first encounter with the speech pathologist, I looked online for some therapy, and I stumbled upon the most popular in Poland. So I decided to enroll. And the first 2 weeks were some kind of introduction. And during those 2 weeks, for the first week, they instructed me to remain totally silent. And they told me that if I remain silent for 7 days, I will forget about my old speaking style and I will forget about stuttering. And for the next 7 days, they instructed me how I should speak in a new way.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you. I have to. So I want to emphasize, dear listeners, can you imagine a child who has difficulty learning to speak adequately? They ordered him to stop speaking. Stop speaking. Be quiet for 7 days. 7 days, right, Pawel?
Yes, 7 days.
7 days, stop speaking. If I stop speaking for 7 days, I will begin stuttering. Because when we don't do things, we forget. This is totally normal. Only when we speak, when we do things, these things remain in our memory. How can it ever help to stop speaking? How can it help us to learn to speak adequately? It is just insane. Okay, but I'm sure that those speech professionals thought that they were doing Pawel a favor. How many people were with you in that course? Do you remember?
Yeah, so the introduction, as I said, lasted for 14 days, the 2 weeks, and there was a group of 20 people. So a group training. And my instructor instructed everyone to remain silent for 7 days. And after this period of 7 days, he basically taught us the new way of speaking. And this new way of speaking involved the method of hand. And I had to slow down my speech to a really very slow level. So, for example, I said a word and it took me 30 seconds to say one word. So he taught me to slow down my speech. And this is how I was speaking for the next 3 months.
Pawel, I remember how you were showing this method, speaking with hands,
Yes.
kind of touching every finger
Kind of
or
touching.
something.
Yes, so they taught us to divide a word to syllables, and we had to use a hand to accentuate every syllable. So, for example, if a word has 5 syllables, I had to divide it to 5 syllables, and every finger was used to say a certain syllable. So basically I had to say syllable by syllable every word, and it took me like half a minute to say one word. And this is how I was speaking for 3 months.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I gotta interrupt you. This is the war against the whole world. This is exactly how people become stutterers, become chronic stutterers. Because if you ask any normal speaker, any person who speaks has no clue how he or she speaks. Because we people speak in whole words. The moment a person is being taught to divide the word, this is the moment a person learns to stutter. Every method of teaching to divide the whole word into parts is the method of teaching to stutter. So this is exactly what they were doing to you, Pawel. They were teaching you to divide words to stutter. No wonder your speech went to hell, basically. They totally destroyed even those little things that you did know, these little skills, speaking skills that you did learn, they destroyed them. Okay, so what happened next? Oh my God, it makes me sick.
Yes. So I will just give you an overview of the whole 3 years and how it looked. So the therapy lasted for 3 years, and every time I opened my mouth to speak, I had to use the hand. So imagine how deep this habit went when every time I open my mouth, I have to use hand. Even now, after 5 years after this therapy, sometimes when I speak, I can feel the hand, even though I don't want to do it. There is such a deep habit that maybe it is a permanent damage, I don't know, but even now when I speak, sometimes I feel the hand. So I really resent this idiotic therapies that he introduced such a stupid method, but he really promised me that after 1 year I will be fluent, that my speech will gradually increase speed. And
Okay, so Pawel, we're coming to commercial break again. They keep interrupting us. But when we come back, I don't want you to just to give overview. I want you to give more details, okay? So talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
Thank you so much for listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And we are getting to know an amazing story of a former lifelong stutterer from Poland. Pawel is a young, extremely intelligent man who got unblocked and dropped his stuttering in only 3 days of the Etalon Speech Gymnastics just a few months ago. And here we go. We are talking about how Pawel got blocked. We did talk about the first set of blocks. First, he got blocked by the first school therapist. Then he went to another speech professionals who put him in the group. That was another set of blockers. So they blocked Pawel even more because they taught him to divide whole words. And they taught him to pay attention to his hand instead of paying attention to what exactly he wanted to talk about, the way normal people do it. We always are focused on only what we have to say, on the whole words. So let's go to the end of the 3-day experience, Pawel. So what happened 3 years later? What happened?
Okay, so we finished after the 3 months when my speech was yet slow, but after the first year of the therapy, which lasted for 3 years, they allowed me to speak a little faster, but I was still using the hand. So every year I was increasing a little bit in my speed. So if you were to meet me at the end of the 3 year, you would say that I speak at the normal rate. But when I started to speak faster, my brain really came back to stuttering because there was no real difference between my new speech and the old speech. So I fell right back into the stuttering and there was absolutely no effect. But I brainwashed myself to be in this therapy because we invested so much money that I just brainwashed myself to do it up until the end. And I'm such a perfectionistic person that I wanted to stick with it. Even we started with a group of 20 people and only 3 people left, and I was one of them because I was so determined and so much money went into it.
The problem was that they did not unblock you. They didn't know how to unblock you. See, Pawel, you still believe that you were sick, that you had a diagnosis of some kind of throat stuttering, right? Stuttering in the throat. Yeah, you believed that. And that was your main mental block. You believed it. You believed you needed a cure. You believed you needed a method to stick to when you spoke. You believed that. So what was the result?
Okay, I just want to add just one last thing before I sum up this therapy. Uh, just imagine the humiliation that I had to go through when for the first whole year I had to speak so slowly that one sentence took me a few minutes to finish, and I had to go back to school. I had to talk with my friends, and of course nobody paid attention to me if one sentence for me to speak took few minutes, right? So it was really humiliating, but I brainwashed myself to say that I do it for me, that after these 3 years I will be finished and I will just sacrifice myself, sacrifice the present for the future.
Can you just briefly mention, because I remember you told me that you went through the nervous break.
Yes,
That
after 3 years, when I finally realized that the therapy didn't provide the results that I was hoping and looking for, it was my first mental breakdown. Before this time, I haven't experienced depression, but after those 3 years, seeing how much money went into it and how I had no results and that I was stuttering even more, I just went into depression. And this depression really took me to some dark places.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so 3 years later, you found yourself in the worse condition than when you started.
Or, yes.
Yeah. So what happened after that, 3 years later?
3 years later, I just gave up. I didn't look for help. I wasn't looking for anybody. I went into 6 months of really deep depression when I lost 20 kilos. I started to have problems in school, and I was really considering just to end it all
Yeah, so
because I
you were
couldn't think.
suicidal, right? You were
Yes, at that
suicidal.
time I was. It was the first time that I experienced such a low in my life, and really, I stopped looking for help. I didn't talk about my problems and I just isolated myself.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how did you get out of that situation? What was the next blocker?
Uh, okay, so after the 6 months, my parents took me to a psychiatrist and I
Oh,
started taking some medication, and initially somehow it elevated my mood. So maybe it was this, maybe it was some other thing, but after the depression I went into mania.
oh,
So it's from one extreme to another extreme. So it was just a period of really mental instability that it's really hard to talk. And you see
yeah.
how much damage it induced in my life, those therapies.
Yes. So let's not talk about those dark times then. Let me hear another story. You went to someone else, right, for help,
Yes.
finally.
Yes, when I finally managed to lift myself from depression, I started again looking for help because I
Yeah.
was stuttering. So I looked online and I found this one guy that I trusted, that I paid a few $100s for his program, and my story continued.
Yep. Yep. So who did you go to?
So I just opened my browser and I typed in the search for stuttering or how to stop stuttering. And the first page that went into my browser was the Pro90D, which was the program designed by the famous guy, good marketer Michael Williams. And I enrolled in his course.
Yeah. Okay, so we will talk about this blocker called Michael Williams in the next segment when we come back, okay? Because this is very important. We never have enough time to talk about everything.
Yes, we can
Okay,
talk for hours.
so commercial break. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
We are back. Live Stutter-Free with your host Anna Deeter on BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. And I am having a conversation with Pawel Kucharski from Poland, a former lifelong stutterer and a Stutter-Free Etalon graduate. So Pawel, you mentioned that you went to the next blocker, by the name of Michael Williams, who is a very nice guy. I like him. I like the way he talks. I like his personality. But being a good person is not a profession, isn't it?
Of course not. No.
So tell a little bit about your experience.
Nobody pays you to be nice, but people pay you to produce results, which I didn't get from his program. So, yes, after my therapy and how it's really resulted in a disastrous breakdown, I saw him, I enrolled in the course, and I decided to take his course because it was only a few $100s, so I didn't took the coaching because I saw that the coaching was like $5,000. So I took the self-study. And for the next few months, I passionately went through the course and really tried to apply everything that he taught. And I even stuttered more at the end of that.
Of course, because did he unblock you?
He blocked me even more, that's the thing.
Did he explain what stuttering really was and what was exactly that you were doing that made you make mistakes in speech? Did he explain it to you?
He used only the word stuttering and stutter, but he never defined it or what it is and what is the mechanism behind it. He just talked about it.
Because just like everyone else, he believes that stuttering is some kind of a mysterious illness. There is no explanation what it is. This is why he did not and could not unblock you. Absolutely not. So he blocked you even more, and unfortunately, he has a very good marketing strategy. And other than spending money, wasting money on his training, I am worried even not just about money, because money you can always earn, you can come back and earn more money, but he blocked you even more. And even those people who watch his free videos and follow his free advice, they block themselves. I have a few students who came from being trained by Michael Williams. They couldn't even begin a word. They couldn't say one word after this kind of training that they did. It was free for them, or a few $100s. They couldn't speak at all. They were so much blocked. So what happened after you went through the program? Summarize.
So basically, after this program, I was taught to model Michael Williams. So his course was based on modeling. And modeling blocked me even more because it destroyed my attention. When I was speaking, he taught me to model him and to basically hold an image of himself in my mind. And whenever I speak, just to forget about my stuttering and focus on speaking like him. So instead of focusing on speaking, I was focusing on speaking like him. So I couldn't really produce the words with according to the natural algorithm that I was taught during the course.
And during which course? Wait a second. During which course?
During your course, the course of Anna Deeter, the Etalon.
Yes, of course, of course. So basically, unfortunately, you are not Michael Williams, and you couldn't become Michael Williams. See, and this is why it was impossible to model after a person who you were not born like this person. Basically, when you attempt to model, to speak like someone else, you kill your own personality and you do your best to become this person. And of course, this is going against yourself. So,
not only do you kill your identity, but also you kill your attention, because instead of focusing on your speaking actions at the present moment, you focus on maintaining some kind of model, and it's really artificial and it's not natural.
Exactly. But anyway, let's go now to the end of your suffering story, to the Etalon Speech Gymnastics. Number one, how did you find us? It's so hard to find us on Google because, I mean, we don't have all the money to pay for marketing.
Yes, it's really ironic, but Yeah, to say how I found you, I remember watching one of Michael Williams' videos online, and there is a bar on right when you go on YouTube, and there are recommended videos. And believe it or not, while watching Michael Williams, a recommended video of yours was presented to me, and I clicked on it. So it was
Okay, good for
while watching.
you.
So, what did you do after you watched a few videos? I understand. I mean, people begin watching, they cannot stop it, they cannot believe it, right?
Yes,
So, what
initially.
did you do? Yeah.
Yes, initially I went through your videos and I couldn't believe that just 3 days is enough to get rid someone of stuttering because in my last therapy they said that I need 3 years. Michael Williams said that I need 8 months to make this new speaking habit. So initially I thought that you're just a fraud, that you're not authentic and you just want to rip people of their money. So
Uh-huh.
after watching your videos, I turned it off and I forgot about it and I went back to Michael Williams. I started modeling again, but the results were not there. So I thought that maybe there is something to it and I came back to you and I watched more of your videos and I saw real transformation because the people seemed to be natural. They seemed to be free. And when I was watching Michael Williams and his interviews, I saw that people were still struggling. And even though people at your place, they didn't speak so fluently or so in a master way, I would say, but they were free. I saw that they were choosing the words very purposefully. And in Michael Williams, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get away from the blockers. Let's go to the Etalon program. And we're going to have a commercial break right now. And when we come back, I want you to give a few words about the book that you have read, my book. Okay? So commercial break again. Talk to you in a bit.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
This is Live Stutter-Free on BBM Global Network and Tune In Radio with your host, Anna Deeter, the author of several books on the subject of Etalon Speech Education. And I'm talking to Pawel from Poland. Pawel, you mentioned that you have read my book, Speech is a Skill, and it really helped you to make an important decision to join the 3-day course. Could you please share with this experience?
Yes, of course. At first, I didn't trust you. That's why I didn't enroll in your Etalon gymnastics course at first. So I decided to give a try and buy a book. And the latest edition was The Speech is a Skill. So I bought it from Amazon and I started reading it. And it's made sense to me that what you say there is just logical. And even after reading your book, I noticed improvements in my speech. And this is what really convinced me to invest the money in your course.
Okay, that was perfect summary. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank Pawel for giving this time to us because it is close to 11 p.m. at his end of the world. It's very late. But the reason he agreed to give me this interview because he knows that we need to spread the Etalon revolutionary information around the globe. This is our mission, to spread the message. People who stutter are not sick. You are healthy, but simply blocked. And these blocks are invisible to you and to other ordinary people, including speech therapists. So yes, each and every person who stutters can be unblocked in only 3 days and gain the freedom of speaking normally with ease like everyone else. If you would like to learn more information, I strongly encourage you to go to the website of our nonprofit organization called Speech Academy Etalon International by Roman Alexeyevich Snishko. The website is www.livestutterfree.com, and just read information, download free ebooks, invest a little bit of your time, not even money, just read these free ebooks and see if it makes sense to you. Then for a small contribution of $50, you can get a gift of the main book that Pawel read. It's called Speech is a Skill. If you live in the United States of America, we can ship it to you at no charge. But if you live abroad, of course, we cannot ship the hard copy. But for the same $50 contribution, we can make this book available to you as a PDF version, and it's called Live Stutter-Free. So this is exactly the same book. I strongly recommend you go to the website, once again, www.livestutterfree.com. Read information, learn the truth, and get out of your state of cognitive dissonance. Stop believing those who have no idea how to unblock you in only 3 days. Because yes, they don't know how to do it. They have not been trained to do this. I have been trained. I know exactly what to do to get you, a person who stutters, unblocked in only 3 days. Most of the time it takes only, a couple of hours, 1 day, and then a lot of speaking. So next week we are going to speak in details about how this stuttering cure business came into place in the country named United States of America. Very interesting topic. Talk to you in a week. Have a great one. Thank you, Pawel, once again. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Live Stutter-Free with your host, Anna Deeter. Listen each week and learn how to become unblocked, liberated, and live stutter-free with host Anna Deeter.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.